This is Andrew Sahak, host of Life Was Peachy, the best podcast about the most questionable music. And you're listening to Trapped in a World, Steve Gerber's favorite podcast about George Lucas' favorite comic, Howard the Duck.
Hey everybody, welcome to Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast. We're here for episode 4, covering some Howard the Duck comics, and I'm here with my friend Russell. Say hi.
Hello.
There he is, the beautiful tones of Russell. How you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. You sound more well-rested than I am.
Well, I slept most of the night, which is not good for my line of work, but I needed it, so.
It's good for the soul.
Yeah.
And good for your mental stability.
Mm-hmm.
So every once in a while, you just gotta just sleep as much as you can.
Yeah.
More people need to nap these days, I feel like.
Yeah.
And we'll be covering lack of sleep in the second issue we talk about today. Did I say my name? My name's Noel. Anyway, today we're going to talk about Howard the Duck Volume 1, Number 3, and Number 4. So that should be interesting for me and maybe 3 other people. But what we're going to do is we're going to summarize these 2 issues and, kind of go over and give our own review and comments on things. We don't rate things because we decided you don't rate perfection. But we do have some listener feedback from a couple friends of ours who are also in the comic book podcasting game. So we'll go over the issues and we'll play some feedback from our friends and talk about it. And if you guys would like to give some feedback on upcoming issues, you can email us at howardpodcast@gmail.com, which is funny that Howard Stern never took that.
Yeah.
But apparently it belongs to the duck and to us.
Quack.
Yep, exactly. Well, since some of their feedback is a little long, we'll just skip the BS and just jump right into these issues because nobody wants to hear us talk about anything else, I'm sure. So, Howard the Duck, Volume 1, Number 3, 4 Feathers of Death, or Enter the Duck. Release date, February 24th, 1976. Cover date, May 1976. Okay. The cover art by Rich Buckler and Steve Loyola. Penciler was, of course, the writer, the guy who wrote the comic was named Steve Gerber. The penciler was John Buscema, which is cool. This is the first kind of bigwig, Marvel bigwig to have on a Howard comic, and the last. No, I'm just kidding. Inker was Steve Loyola, colorist Michelle Wolfman, letter Annette Kawecki. I think I screwed that one up before. I apologize. Annette, if you're still alive. And editor Marv Wolfman. So let's hear the synopsis of this wild and wonderful world of 70s Marvel comics.
Leaving a theater after watching the latest kung fu exploitation film, Howard is disgusted by the fact that human culture would glamorize such violence and questions the merit of bastardizing of a culture to make a violent film that encourages young people to imitate. Almost as to prove his point, Howard and Beverly are bumped into by a young man who is imitating some of the moves that he saw in the movie. Howard tells the boy off, while the boy remarks Howard is a talking duck. He's not wrong. Howard tells the boy that humans are misrepresenting an ancient culture and repackaging it as entertainment. Howard and Beverly head to a diner for some food, while Bev says she never pegged Howard as an intellectual, which Howard dismisses. Shortly after arriving at the diner, more kids are there talking about the exploitation film. Suddenly, the boy from the street is thrown through the diner's window by Count Macho.
Everybody in Marvel is a count or a doctor, or a
king,
Yeah, like a king or
emperor,
a baron for some reason.
Yeah.
There's a lot of barons in Marvel Comics.
baron. Yeah.
If you're street level, I guess you're just a count.
Yeah. Master of Kung Fu and a self-proclaimed macho man, yeah, who will not stand for...
His shirt is down to his belt, so, he's a macho man.
Yeah. He will not stand for any effrontery to his manhood. When Howard tries to talk Macho out of beating the boy, a fight erupts in the diner that increases in size as more patrons get up to fight Macho and his hoods. During the scuffle, the boy is stabbed by Macho in the chaos, and his gang leaves shortly after. When Howard tries to stop them, Macho beats Howard. However, Howard pulls off Macho's pendant. In the ensuing chaos, Howard manages to back the crowd away so that Beverly can administer first aid until the authorities, including Officer Tompkins from Giant Size Man Thing number 4,
Tompkins!
can arrive and take him away. Beverly goes with the paramedics, telling them she's a nurse. A lie. Howard stews over what happened, hoping to relax by browsing in an adult bookstore.
As we all do.
Howard comes across a rack of magazines devoted to Kung Fu.
I didn't underline rack.
It was too good not to pass up. Further disgusted by the wanton glamorization of violence, Howard browses through one of the magazines and happens upon an ad for Master Charge. I don't know.
That sounds as good.
Charge. Who promises to teach the secrets of any fighting style. Deciding to beat Count Macho at his own game, Howard goes to Master Charge's school, where he is welcomed as Charge's newest pupil and begins his training. Meanwhile, Beverly is told by Tompkins at the hospital that the boy had died in surgery. Leaving the hospital, Beverly is then captured by Macho's thugs.
Macho man. Yep.
Back at the martial arts school, Howard explains why he wants to learn martial arts to Master Charge, who explains to Howard that Count Macho was one of his students and sold Count Macho the charm Howard stole from him for $5.98 American.
Not Duck World yet. The transfer rate is different.
The master trains Howard mind and body in the art of quack fu and becomes a master of the fighting style in just under 3 hours in a few distinct lessons. Given a fighting outfit, Howard suddenly finds himself back outside the adult bookstore as if the fighting school vanished. Thinking he may have imagined the whole thing, but convinces himself he couldn't have, Howard rushes home to Beverly to tell her of the experience. Howard finds a note on the door from Macho demanding his pendant back. Howard goes to the meeting place, an unfinished skyscraper, of course it is, and insults Macho while beating all of his goons. And in the fight with Macho, Howard is able to deflect all of Macho's attacks. In a fit of rage, Macho jumps at Howard, moves out of the way, and Macho plummets off the skyscraper to his death. Reflecting on the whole incident, Bev tells Howard the kid died at the hospital. They come to the conclusion that Macho deserved his fate, but do not like the idea that he had to die.
Oh, poor Macho. Died. What was I just watching? Something the other day where someone just moved and then they fell to their death because they didn't plan their attack. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, that's just like the Quack Fu issue of Howard the Duck. Well, buddy, what'd you think of this one?
So this one was obviously a satire of Kung Fu films.
Yeah.
Also a satire of Shang-Chi.
I'm saying they're doing a lot. There's a lot of work to be done in making fun of the master of Kung Fu.
Yes. What I like...
Which had only appeared, I think, maybe a year or two before this.
Yeah. See,
So he's pretty current comics to be making fun of.
what I don't understand about Gerber's satire here, and maybe this was the joke, is at the beginning, Howard is talking about, how dare they do these stereotypes, and
Then he becomes one.
he's a stereotype. And some of the dialogue, especially from Master Change and Howard, has not aged well. But neither has those kung fu movies.
Exactly. There's even a couple kind of racist lines from Howard in here.
Definitely.
Like, when before Count Macho shows up to take down everybody in the entire diner they're at, Howard is yelling at the kid on their way in. He's like, "You freaking fortune cookies, watch where you're going."
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, he also refers to Change as massa at one point, which is, yeah.
I think he was trying to, do that, that Cleveland accent or whatever, but it's like, that in retrospect doesn't come off the way you meant it to come off there, Steve. I think part of that might be a commentary on the fact that it's like, we love this stuff, but why do we love it when it's real bad, especially for children and society at large? But it's almost like he's going through his own brain on like why he would even write violent comic books in the first place.
Right.
It's like going back and forth on the whole idea of it. It's like, well, it is entertainment, but it is awful for society. And it's like, I kind of actually like relate to that in a lot of ways because I hate violence. I don't like it, but at the same time, it's like, it's part of sort of animal nature, and we are animals, if anything else. So it's like it's like, I know you're a big horror fan, but I am not, because that level of glorifying violence to me, just personally, is kind of, I just don't get it. I'm like, that can desensitize, I feel like, certain people, not everybody, because not everybody's an idiot, but certain idiots can get really desensitized to this play acting of chopping people with axes and stuff, and it's just like, how is that entertainment? But it has been since like the dawn of culture, pretty much,
Well, see, when it comes to horror films, like, I really like the ones that show no violence. Like, the absence of violence is much scarier because you have to think about, like, you have to use your brain. But then also,
you like the classic kind of stuff the most, don't you?
Yeah, but I also like, if the violence is so over the top that it's not realistic, that to me is just like, I don't know how to put it. It's just like, it's just too crazy for it to be remotely real.
Yeah.
So
that's what a lot of people say, and I understand that. That's what I loved the Daredevil TV show, but there were points in that where the violence was so realistic.
Yeah.
And I know it was, there's the famous scene of the Kingpin taking off the guy's head with a car door or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like that. I had to turn away watching that. I was like, this is just too fucked up for me. I can't. And in a superhero show, it's like, I know you're trying. They are trying to prove, they proved the point that
he's kind of man-child.
Yeah, this man-child is nobody to fuck with. But it's like, Jesus, did you have to go that far? You even hear like a squish, and then you hear his head like hit the ground. It's like, come on. Like, I agree with your point. It's way more terrifying in your own imagination than to actually have to show it.
Right.
And so, like, I won't lie. When I was a kid, like in the 80s, like I wasn't old enough for the kung fu craze necessarily, but except for the TV show, obviously. But I was old enough sort of for the second wave, which was like Ninja.
Yeah.
That became the big one, like, American Ninja.
Yeah.
And all the hand in Marvel comics, and like everything was just ninja. And I loved it. Yep, the foot. Which, I had like Ninja magazine you could like send away for nunchucks and throwing stars and shit. And I took karate because I wanted to. And then after a while, I was just like, no.
Yeah.
No. I grew out of it.
Kind of.
And I think that's sort of the point, is like there's kids who are all like into it in this comic. Like, yeah, the kung fu thing. And then, a quote unquote real macho kung fu guy, a man-child comes in and just beats everybody up as a front, because it's an affront to his manhood or whatever. Not a front to, like, I like the fact that he points out, I don't know how Howard knows that this is an affront to Asian culture.
Right.
Being from another world, but he does know. And it's because Steve Gerber that is who Howard's voice is Steve Gerber's thoughts. He's just giving the kids crap, which is kind of funny, and that's just straight out of Gerber's head. Like, this is kind of racist, and then he throws in a racist line.
Yeah. For me, this issue, it wasn't exactly funny. Like, some dark shit goes down. This kid dies, gets stabbed in this bar, or this whatever kind of brawl it was. I mean, yeah, it had funny bits like Howard learning quack fu, but for the most part, they played it pretty straight.
Yeah, they really did. And I think we talked about them before. There's sort of the goofy side of Steve Gerber, and there's sort of like the depressed or maybe thoughtful side of Steve Gerber. Mm-hmm. And it can be sort of hard to meld those two things sort of together in one comic. Like, I mean, there's gags and stuff like that, like the fact that his pendant was $5.98 or whatever.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
He's like, "Oh, you want one? I got him for sale, $5.98." But Howard is usually too broke to afford those things. It's just like the panel of him getting his little kung fu outfit is really funny, or his quack fu outfit.
Mm-hmm. And they call him what is it? Shang Op.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah,
and just like a little bit of surrealism, like the fact that is this kung fu studio like even real? It's
right?
Like, it must be real, but like it came out of it. Like there's some good kind of weirdness to it, 70s weirdness, but I do think it's more satire than comedy. This one for sure, and it's another one of like using a talking duck to get out. It is just funny to me that his like. Steve Gerber's voice is a talking duck. It's kind of perfect for all of the thoughts in his head to come out of something so bizarre like this. But overall, I agree with you. Yeah, it's not the funniest comic, and it's not even necessarily the most entertaining.
Yeah,
but it's kind of funny. Like Stan Lee, I think I found kind of a quote from somebody said that Stan Lee had said he loved the writing in this issue. He lauded it, quote unquote. Yeah. So, I mean, he had a fan at the top.
Yeah.
Steve Gerber did.
I bet I can tell you the exact thing that you were thinking of with Count Macho's death, and that is Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
That is exactly what I was watching the other night. Yeah. I got my wife to actually, she's the one who was like, we're kind of flipping through, and she doesn't ever want to watch anything I want to watch, and all of a sudden she goes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, huh? And I was like, I've actually never seen it because when I was a kid, I didn't want that movie to ruin the Turtles for me. She goes, you want to watch it? I'm like, okay, this is great.
That movie is great.
It's much, I think if I would have watched it in 1990, I would have absolutely hated it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I was that big of a fan of the black and white Mirage that anything, like I saw a couple episodes of the cartoon and it just, I was like, no, no. And so that movie, but I do like that it is a meld of the two, and that's cool. Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly how Shredder dies at the
end. That movie it's insane. Like everything in that movie was taken from the Mirage comics except for how the Turtles act.
Yeah,
and
then they're
April,
sort of fun.
April being the reporter and all that, but
yeah, but that's from the cartoon, right?
Right.
I mean, if they didn't take from the Mirage Studio comics, they took straight from the cartoon.
Right.
So, and the creature work and stuff is great. They look awesome. Yep. They really learned a lot from Howard the Duck, the movie.
I watched to tie this into Howard, other than Count Macho dying the same way as the Shredder. I think Howard really paved the way for the Turtles. Anthropomorphic kind of hero, and like I think the next
satire of it. A lot of people don't realize how satirical those early Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, they, like we said, they were making fun of comics themselves, particularly. I mean, Frank Miller.
There's one issue where Donatello literally meets a artist named Kirby who. Everything he draws becomes like a real thing. Yeah. So, and
it was satire and love for the medium that they did, which is, that's a lot of what Steve Gerber was kind of doing. Like this issue alone by the Quack Fu is, him. You can sort of read on the page him going back and forth about his own morality about this stuff. In that I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and listen to some listener feedback, and then we'll get into issue number 4 of Volume 1, Sleep of the Just.
This is Phil Parrish from the Capes and Lunatics Sidekicks podcast. And you are listening to Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast. This show quacks me up.
Hello, Noel and Russell. I just thought I'd give some thoughts to issue 3 of Howard the Duck. I'm starting to do a read through as well. In between, obviously, the current comics and some old comics that I am reading myself.
Batman.
As Mace the Cat meows. Just for issue 3, it's first kind of foray into Howard the Duck. I really enjoyed it. It's weird. I guess listening to your previous episodes, I was like expecting like a really wacky, like ultra wacky, just all tongue-in-cheek kind of action from the issues. But issue 3, I don't know, I found it like a kind of balance between being like a serious story and being kind of lighthearted and really jokey. And by serious, I mean not like totally deep or anything like that, but you know, there were things at stake. There was a young kid that got stabbed by Count Macho. So again, like names are really weird. Quack Fu, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just a really weird tone, I think. I'm enjoying it. It's just not the... I don't know what I'm thinking. I guess I'm thinking of it... I was I was expecting it to be more like What The... You know, like that, or Brand Ek, but but Gerber writes in like an actual story behind it, you know, and it is basically Howard not really taking much, not really respecting much on the kind of whole kung fu stuff, but he finds himself in it as well when he, learns it within 7 hours or something. So just a really weird tale. I really love the art. I love the way I love his voicing, love the way he speaks. It's just so surreal just having a duck just walking around, and I found it funny that some of the characters thought that it was a man dressed up as a duck or a kid dressed up as a duck or something, but his sidekick Beverly says that no, he's actually a duck. So yeah, really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to issue 4. See what kind of unfolds there. It kind of seemed like all one and dones. But yeah, really enjoyed issue 3. This was pretty cool. I'm going to I haven't read issues 1 and 2 yet. I just dived into 3 so I could leave in some feedback. But I'm going to go back read them as well. But yeah, enjoying it, and I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. There were some really funny little like one-liners as well, which I'm sure you guys will pick up. But yeah, as I mentioned, my main takeaway was like a weird balance between funny and kind of straight. But anyway, I'll look forward to your comments. See ya.
Hello, my friends. This is Justin the Owl Osgood, Russell's co-host from the Tomes of Evil podcast. And I'm here to give you my thoughts on the wonderful Howard the Duck, issues number 3 and 4 from 1976. I loved issue number 3. For me, any issue of Howard the Duck which has panels with Howard where it almost looks like he's berating the reader, like his face is breaking the fourth wall and he's staring at the reader, and almost it looks like he's tearing them a new one. I love that. For me, no Howard the Duck comic is complete with at least one of those panels appearing in it. And in this issue, we have 2 of those, so I was so happy. And the first one of the 2 is when they're in the bar, and he says, Yeah, well, some punks feed on the site, especially if they did the damage. They need it, because they ain't got the mental equipment to be sure they exist unless they feel that sense of power. I just love that. I love that, because he's looking right at the reader when he's saying it. It's fantastic. And then, of course, there's the great brawl in the bar, and one of my favorite lines of dialogue in the whole issue where it says, "Speechless, the duck gapes at what seems a wall of baldate bodies, a monolithic mass of flesh that expands, contracts, expands, as if attempting to squeeze itself to death." I love that line. I thought that was so evocative and so cool. And then just all of it was fantastic. The art, John Buscema, what more can you say about that? Just great stuff. Really, from beginning to end, I can't find a single fault with any of the art or the dialogue. And another part that made me really laugh was when Howard goes to see the sensei, the master of kung fu that he learns his abilities from, and he shows the necklace to the old man, and he says, "I fear he was one of my own students then. We offer that charm for only $5.98. to all our graduates." I love that. I love that. It was so good. The only very minor quibble I had about this issue was I wish that when he was going through his martial arts training with the old man, I wish that it had been more than just one panel, because we get that kind of collage splash panel where he's doing all these different things. I would have liked to have seen him go through maybe a page or two of training with the old man and going through a whole bunch of nonsense. I thought that would have been really funny. But yeah, that's just a minor quibble, and that was really my only thing that I would have liked to have seen in this issue. Everything else was great. It was fantastic. And there was another scene, another panel actually, which made me laugh towards the end during the climactic confrontation with Macho. When he beats the pants off of all of Macho's men and says, "You're fresh out of goons, Count. Looks like you're gonna have to take me on yourself, assuming you're man enough, you sissy." And then he goes crazy and launches himself at Howard. And there's a great panel where he actually clips Howard in the shoulder. Oh, it's great. I would give this issue, if we're doing 5 out of 5 quacks, I'd probably give this one a 4 out of 5. Yeah, it was so good. Maybe even a 4.5 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah, loved issue number 3.
Yeah, so that's some thoughts from our friend Ray and our partner and friend Justin. And what do you think of what they had to say? Justin got more out of it, I feel like, than we did. One thing, while he was talking about it, one thing I kind of forgot to mention myself, which I think I wrote a note for, is just how great are Steve Gerber's captions. They're always so well written. He's really good at sounding sort of like almost kind of poetic and serious with the juxtaposition of how weird or funny the stuff is, like in the Hell Cow issue about the cold unmilkable udders. He just sounds like that voiceover, that's just playing it as straight as possible. And yeah, those always really crack me up.
Yeah, I can totally hear the "trapped in a world he never made." I did want to comment. I'll comment on this, and then I'll comment on our feedback.
Sure.
I forgot to mention that, I was looking the panel Justin was talking about where Count Macho kind of goes crazy at the end. Mm-hmm. You can definitely tell this is Buscema art. And if he was green, that's 70s Hulk right there.
Oh yeah.
That is that's my favorite Hulk. His hair is a little too long, but if the shaggy haired Hulk with the Buscema art, that's my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the 3 panel sort of him getting angrier and angrier, that it's like 1 panel but 3 in 1. Yeah, it totally looks. Yeah, I forgot to kind of make a comment about the art too. It is really good. We had talked in previous episodes about how it gets a little bit more marvelly, and it does. You can't get more marvelly than Buscema.
Yeah.
I guess you could, but he's, for the time, the 70s was all about him, really. And the next issue is Gene Colan, which he's also very, very Marvel.
Yeah.
But there's something, I feel like he did more horror and things like that, so it kind of brings it back a little bit to that almost more underground-y roots that Howard kind of comes out of. But I thought I really like John Buscema. I mean, he's one of my favorite artists ever. So having him work on an issue of Howard the Duck is fantastic.
Yeah, mine too. As for our feedback, I feel like we're more in line with Ray. Because Ray kind of got the same vibe I did, which was like, it's not exactly a comedy, and it's definitely not Brand Eck, that's for sure. It's like, I know our complete collection doesn't have this, but I actually read these on Marvel Unlimited. There was, I can't remember if it was a letter for issue 3 or 4, but they actually included the letters pages on Marvel Unlimited.
Oh, cool.
And one of the writers was talking about how you almost lost me with the giant-sized Man-Thing stories of Man-Frog and the Hell Cow, but you brought me back with the Turnip.
Oh,
and they said that that is pure satire, unlike the others, which I felt was more parody. And I guess that there is a difference.
There's definitely a difference, yeah.
Between satire and parody. Like satire, how do I put it? Satire doesn't inherently have to be funny. It's just, commenting in a...
Yeah, it's almost the irony of it that makes it funny.
Yeah.
It's like a good example of that, I think. And I wonder how influenced some of these people were, but it was like Monty Python's Flying Circus would go from satire to parody to surrealism.
Yep.
Kind of back and forth. And that was, sort of surrealist parody and satire kind of mixed back and forth were really big. But that's funny.
Yeah. So, I would...
Ray's right. Yeah, it is. I think it's a funny issue for him to jump on.
Yeah.
For number one. I think I told him after I heard from him, I was like, go back and read the earlier stories. I think you'll get a better handle. Because this fits right in the Howard the Duck landscape or whatever. But it's just,
Yeah. I'm really glad Justin enjoyed it as much as he did. 4.5 out of 5. That's pretty insane. And, it was good. But, other than like his first 2 appearances where he was kind of inconsequential, I think this is my least favorite story so far. Which I thought it would be way better. Quack Fu, all that stuff. And it's not that it's bad. It's just not quite what I'm looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, some people seem to really, really like. And I respect Justin's views a lot about it. He found a lot that I agree with. I think it's especially some of the artwork that he and like kind of visual gag stuff that he pointed out is really good. But it's like, I guess it depends on the mood I'm in. If I read that issue I was in a kind of a goofy mood, and I was like, oh, this is pretty serious.
Yeah.
But I did read issue 3 and 4 in one setting, and then it seems that's how it is. It's like he's like one for my serious sort of depressed side, and one for my goofy
right
side.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that, reading them in pairs. It's like, I don't know if I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. He kind of goes back and forth between the two, so that's cool.
I have to admit, when I read issue 3, I was insanely tired. So maybe that put a damper on my view of it, but no, we'll talk about issue 4 in a second, but it's definitely more in my wheelhouse.
I agree. So, well, thanks guys for sending it. We'll hear Justin's thoughts on issue 4 after we go over it right about
now.
Wait. Now. Howard the Duck, Volume 1, Number 4, Sleep of the Just, or Sleep of the Just. I don't, okay. Release date, April 27th, 76. Cover date, July 76. And the cover art was by Gene Colan, and he was also the penciler. Writer was Steve the Man Gerber. Inker Steve Viola again. Colorist Michelle Wolfman again. Letter Annette
Kawecki.
And editor Marv Wolfman.
Yeah.
And here we go with the synopsis of the Just.
While relaxing before bed, Howard, in a monogrammed Hefner-like smoking jacket, is reading writings by German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel.
Nice.
I
thought I'd maybe get you with that one.
When Howard is disturbed and Bev is woken up at midnight by constant pounding on the floor from the apartment upstairs, leading to the ceiling collapsing. Howard and Beverly go up to investigate. In the apartment, they find Paul Same, a man with a sleeping disorder, pounding on the floor. Howard wakes him up, and Paul tells him his life story.
I like how Howard wakes him up too. He kicks him in the ass.
Yeah. And I also like how Howard's like, oh, brother, here we go.
Let me tell you my whole life story. Oh, God damn it. Okay.
Able to read at age 3, Paul was viewed as a child prodigy until he started school, where his boredom and disinterest in doing everything the same as anyone else led to flagging grades, I almost said grenades, and trouble with his folks. Unable to stand up for himself, Paul would drift into daydreams where he would punish those who pushed him around, but this would cause him to fall asleep in the waking world at inopportune times. With his story finished, Howard questions why Paul never stood up for himself, something which Paul cannot answer. And he is inspired by this as Howard storms back downstairs to go back to sleep. Elsewhere, later that evening, a young man tries to rob an old woman, but is interrupted by a rhyming masked hero in a nightshirt who burns the would-be assailant with a candlestick and sweeps the old lady to safety.
Farewell, sucker.
Finding himself dwelling over the problems he sees with humans, Howard finds he cannot sleep and goes down to Joe's bar. While drinking at the bar, Howard becomes the cause of a bar fight between two patrons, one not believing Howard is a duck, and the other calling Howard his friend. The fight erupts into a full-fledged brawl until Paul arrives dressed in pajamas and a face mask, calling himself Winky Man. He tries to dispel the crowd with a candle and rhymes. Before he is pummeled to a pulp, Howard grabs Winky Man and pulls him into a dark alley. There, Paul wakes up with no memory of what happened. In the coming days, Paul finds himself very productive and able to complete his artworks, while at night his Winky Man persona would go out and target those who push others around. Finally having enough work to put on a show, Paul's work is savaged by art critic Xavier Cotier, prompting Paul to become Winky Man and attack Xavier. However, Howard intervenes, grabs the candle, and when Winky's Roman candle causes the art gallery's sprinklers to turn on, waking Paul up, Howard has Paul stand up to Xavier. When Paul does so, it's revealed that Xavier wears a wig, and he's no art authority, just a bald man. Xavier turns it around in front of the press to make it look as though the whole ordeal was an artistic expression, a notion which Paul goes along with when Xavier begins to praise Paul's ability. After the whole ordeal, Howard feels as though Paul didn't learn anything. However, Beverly has a little more faith in Paul.
Oh. Yeah. So this is a little bit more. There's still some, I feel like, from the deep thoughts of Steve Gerber in here, because I know that it's pretty clear that I think Paul Same is modeled after himself, Steve Gerber. I mean, when he first left his day job to come to Marvel, at first he was an assistant editor, and part of the reason they gave him a writing job is because he was bored and he kept falling asleep at his desk. So I think he's making fun of himself a little bit for getting bored and dozing off. And the character looks like early 70s Steve Gerber, like the glasses and the long hair and everything. He's clearly kind of making fun of himself here. So it's kind of funny having one side of his personality, the duck, make fun of his other side of his personality.
Yeah.
But what'd you think?
I like this one. It's weird, of course. You know what? When I was reading this, where Beverly says, "Nope, it was all a dream," or it might be Howard that says that. Paul says, "Nightmare, you mean?" I totally thought we were getting a story where Howard has to fight Nightmare.
Your head is way too deep into the Doctor Strange comics, right?
I was like, oh, shit,
Nightmare.
Here we go. Where's the horse? But no, it was entertaining. This one definitely is satirizing the origin story because I mean, just the fact that Howard is like, oh brother, here we go, and we get like multiple page or one big full page of origin story here, and it's just goofy. I thought it kind of went out with a whimper though. But maybe that was the point. Is like we had all this build up, and Howard's like, "You're just gonna go with him, you big fucking idiot," you know. But
and Paul's like, "Well, yeah. I mean, if it'll make me sales, I guess." I thought that was. I like the fact that it kind of went out on a whimper like that. I like that. What Xavier, the art critic, when he shows up his bald head, he's like, "Oh, it's all performance art." You know,
it's all Beverly.
At least it's he's a buffoon, but not a total idiot. He knows how to get something out of a bad situation, I guess. But he puts his arm around Paul, and he's like, "Come on, you know, we can make something work out of this." And then I think it is funny the very last panel when they're back at looks like they're back at Paul's apartment, and he's sleeping. Yeah, and then Howard's just you got a long way to go. Colter was a cinch. Oh, then he says, what if it had been a woman critic? The crowd wouldn't cheer if you yanked off a bald lady's wig.
I got to talk about some of my favorite moments here. The Gene Colan art is great, and I love this panel where we see a monster Howard.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, his dream... What Paul's seen them as in his dream and his half sort of waking life. Yeah, the monster Howard looks great. And Beverly is like some sort of sorceress.
Yeah. We also get a kaiju Paul rampaging the city. But two of my favorite parts here is when the guy is robbing the old lady and she says, "But I swear I've only enough for a car fare and a hamburger." And then finally, when Howard ignites that Roman candle and he starts flying around the room, "Listen, I seem to have hit the wrong switch on this thing. Ask the turkey in the nightshirt how to turn it." Wow!
I really love the bar scene. You know, just cut to Howard at the bar, and like the art is so awesome. It's so awesome. It looks like, you know, the EC, like Johnny Craig kind of like artwork, or Wally Wood almost, or somebody. It just looked, the shadowing and everything looks great on their faces. The dudes just look ugly and drunk. You know, it's so good. It almost has a Ditko quality of like, you know, Ditko is just, everybody looked like shit.
Yeah.
On purpose. It's just like, this is fantastic. And just like Howard looks like with the two guys arguing back and forth, and like the look on Howard's face when the one guy grabs the other guy, and you can just kind of see Howard with his one eye kind of squinted, and he's looking up at the guys, and then he's like, he has this look on his face like, oh shit, these guys are going to fight.
Yeah. He says, "Guys, you're gassing me." Yeah, this is, I mean, Gene Colan did a really long run on Tomb of Dracula, and you can tell that this is definitely his art. Even the art critic, it kind of looks like Dracula a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like Doctor Strange.
That too. What did you think of Winky Man's, we'll call it his superhero attire?
It's so funny to me. I was like, where did he get a mask?
Yeah.
I can see, like, actually, where the hell did he get a nightshirt?
Yeah. He looks
what
like,
year is this?
He looks like Ebenezer Scrooge with a mask. Yeah.
Yeah, or it looks like he's, you know, settling down for a long winter's nap. Maybe that's the joke, you know?
Yeah.
It's that poem, which is kind of funny. But it's another character in a Steve Gerber book wearing a mask that looks like someone would be wearing today.
Yeah, speaking of that, where's the kidney lady?
Oh, we'll see her. Don't worry.
We were supposed to get her revenge.
Yeah, it's coming. It said next issue, but he didn't know what he was doing from issue
Right.
to issue.
I will comment that I'm really excited that it looks like the next issue is a wrestling themed one, and that's hilarious to me.
Yeah, we'll see what you think when we get to how wrestling themed it was.
Yeah.
Let's get to Justin left some thoughts on this one. I split his comments in two. Let's get to his thoughts.
And then issue number 2, we have Gene Colan returning, which was also a welcome sight to see. Not that there's anything wrong with John Buscema, but Gene Colan, I don't know, just he seems to be the perfect Howard artist in a lot of ways. This one made me laugh. No, issue number 4 made me laugh so hard. I loved it. I think this one for me is perfect. Probably a 5 out of 5. I'll already give the rating ahead of time because it made me laugh so much. I've got to give it a 5 out of 5. When they go up and see when they see this man banging on the floor in his sleep, and he sees Howard as this monstrous duck, that cracked me up in the beginning, and I thought, oh man, this is going to be a good one. Then when this poor sad sack is telling his story about how he's constantly asleep and how he can't get ahead in life because he's constantly asleep all the time, and he's missed out on all of these great things in life because he's been asleep through them. There was that one page that where he's continuing his story to Howard, and there's one panel where he's standing asleep in the middle of traffic, and this old man's trying to prevent him from getting run over. He's asleep on a roller coaster. And then the best one of all, this was the one that made me laugh the most. I slept through my first kiss. This poor guy's leaning all over this woman. Oh man, that cracked me up so good. I love it. And the whole concept of this guy that he's been a doormat his whole life, and the only time that he can ever exert himself is while he's asleep. Oh, I love it. The next line of dialogue, which absolutely killed me, was a few pages later when they cut to the first appearance of our somnambulist guest star. The old woman getting held up by the punk on the street. She goes, "But I swear I've only enough for a car fare and a hamburger." And the punk says, "So you're poor. You'll be poor and dead if you don't let me check that purse for myself, Grandma. You got 10 seconds. Oh man, I had to take a moment after I read that because I was laughing so hard to get my wits back. But then Winky Man appears, and so funny with the Roman candle. I love this. It's just so perfect. Then we cut to yet another fight scene in the bar. I hope that bar owner has major insurance on the place. The amount of brawls that take place in here on a regular basis. Another part that just about killed me was towards the end, when they're at the art exhibit, and that critic is basically saying that his art sucks, that Winky Man's art is terrible. And he says, "It's not junk!" and hits Howard on the head. Oh man, I loved it. "It's not junk!" Oh, it was fantastic. And he goes absolutely crazy as Winky Man. The whole part with the toupee, also super funny. I hope that we see Winky Man again. I don't know if he appears again in this series, but I really hope that he does, because like I said, it's a great concept for a character. It's a great story idea. And they definitely did leave it open so that he could return. I hope he does. But yeah, like I said, I would give this one a 5 because it made me laugh so much. And any comic book which does that much, I automatically give it a high rating. Even if it wasn't intentionally hilarious. But this one obviously was.
Yeah, I think so.
And just really great, entertaining stories, really, from beginning to end. Yeah, 5 out of 5 for this one. 4.5 for issue number 3. And greatly looking forward to the next 2, 5 and 6. I'll hopefully be able to share my thoughts with those as well. All right, guys, I'll let you go. And in the meantime, listen for Russell and my exploits on Tomes of Evil. Take care.
Always plugging. Justin the Owl Osgood. Always plugging.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate the plugs.
Yeah, he enjoyed this quite a bit. I think 5. I want 5 out of 5. Wow. I wonder if that's just on a Howard the Duck rating, or if that's an overall comic book rating. We'll have to ask him sometime. But I'm glad he really enjoyed this one. He thought some of the same parts that were hilarious we did too, like the robber robbing the old lady.
Would that equate to a big fuck all duck? a small, beautiful yellow duck.
How many turns on the corkscrew penis? 4.5. 4.5 turns on the.
Wow!
I do like the panel right when the robber is going after the old lady and is counting down. He's like 10, 9, 8, 7. And then we didn't really mention the rhymes of the Winky Man are pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's like 666, huh? Over the wall, out of the night, to answer the call, this woman in fright comes Winky Man.
I wonder if that was a satire of Etrigan.
Oh, yeah, kind of could be. Or it's just the, kind of the...
Oh, nursery rhyme.
Nursery rhyme.
That's
what it would,
more, yeah.
I couldn't remember nursery rhyme.
I just want to say a funny sidebar is that when I was growing up, my parents referred to the male reproductive organ as a winky. So I got a big kick out of this.
Oh, Dick Man. No. That is pretty funny. Well, yeah, he appreciated his backstory about how he slept through all the most important things in his life is so good.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that.
Me too. I think it's because when I was reading this the other day, I kind of glossed over that too. It's like the same way Howard did. Like, oh, great, a fucking origin story.
Yeah.
But it is really for the panel of him sleeping on the roller coaster. He's just passed out on his...
I forgot how good that was.
Passed out on her arm.
I slept through my first kiss.
First kiss. Well, and it is, this obviously Steve Gerber just making, he was notoriously late with deadlines all the time. He wrote a whole Howard the Duck kind of issue about it. It's kind of what officially led to his firing from Marvel Comics. Like they needed to come up with an official reason, and it was because he was late on his deadlines all the time. It wasn't the fact that he was suing them to try to get his character back or anything. I'm glad he sort of writes himself into this. And Winky Man does return.
Oh.
We do see him again. I think someone else even wrote much later on Winky Man into something. Probably Deadpool. I think,
Yeah. I think we talked off air that seems like a lot of Howard stuff resurfaces in Deadpool, and I feel like Howard walks so Deadpool could run.
Yeah. Even though I personally enjoy the Howard stuff more, but it's, Howard could walk so She-Hulk could run.
Yeah.
A lot of bringing sort of that, not quite fourth wall breaking, but kind of like he'd mentioned, like Justin had mentioned in issue 3 about how he'll look dead at you and say something it's very sort of sitcom-y in that way.
Yeah, I appreciate what Howard is doing more than just burrito jokes in Deadpool.
Well, so Justin gives this 5 corkscrew penises. I don't know if I've said my thought. I mean, I really enjoy it. I think it's a little, I guess I'm maybe just, as we're recording right now, I'm in the mood for a little more goofiness than I am for sort of like, I mean, I appreciate the sort of more thought-provoking, even though it's not the deepest thing. It's like, violence is bad, but we do it in comics, and I'm writing comics. Okay, I get it. I understand, and I get it, and I agree.
It's almost like he was saying, violence is bad, kids, but it's fun in the comic books.
Yeah, exactly. Just read in your comic book, but don't kick your friend's ass.
Right.
Don't buy nunchucks out of Ninja Magazine and by accidentally hit your friend in the face with them like certain people do.
Yes.
Ugh. I was a bad boy. But I don't know. I guess we've got our issue 3 and 4. Next we'll be doing 5, 6, and then after that 7, and then Marvel Treasury Edition, which is Howard wasn't in a Defenders comic or vice versa. They actually did the Treasury Edition series that they did in the 70s where they would do some reprints and stuff. They actually did a new story that Gerber wrote with Howard and the Defenders crossover. Eventually we're going to get to that. So pretty soon, the episode after next. So that will be really fun. I think you'll really enjoy that one. It's more the silliness than it is the parody.
Yeah. Should we mention the button? It's in the notes here. The vote for...
Oh, yeah. I think it was in the letter section. It's the first mention of Howard running for president. So, and that's actually coming up pretty soon.
I wonder how much that button's going for now.
I mean, I would love to. I'm sure you could buy like a copy. Or,
a fake one, yeah.
I have the T-shirt that has the button on it.
Yeah.
That I got for a holiday gift, which I'm already wearing it out. The armpits are already pretty stinky on that.
Wow.
That's what my wife says when I crawl into bed wearing that shirt.
At least you don't have a corkscrew penis that I know of.
So you haven't seen.
Oh.
There's a lot to talk about with that. So it'll be exciting once we get there. But in the meantime, next episode, like I said, is, what was it? Issue 5. I want Mooney. Which is the Howard. God, that cover's hilarious. I don't want to talk about it now.
It's a good one.
Talk about it now. We'll get there when we get there. Thanks, everybody, for listening to whatever fucking episode of Trapped in a World, the Howard Duck podcast this is. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Say bye-bye, baby. We'd love to hear your feedback for future episodes on upcoming issues of Howard the Duck. You can send a voice memo or an email to howardpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is trappedinaworld.libsyn.com. Twitter and Instagram is Howard Duck Pod, and our Facebook page is Trapped in a World, the Howard the Duck podcast.
Hello, Noel. If you're hearing this, you're doing your job correctly because you'll have to edit this out perfectly. I realize I'm probably making your job a little more inconvenient, and I apologize, but there's somebody that really wanted to talk to you. No. What has 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 legs, and is reading these fucking Howard the Duck issues? The Green Goblin! Ah!